Yeah. Moses had a staff, David had a stone. The disciples changed the world, and they started out alone. You don't need perfection, you just need surrender. God can use a willing heart to change the world forever.
Hey, this is Aaron with the Watch Missions Live podcast. Today, I have Chad Stutzman, and he started Grace Church, has multiplied it to 5 locations, and today, we're going to go step by step of how he started it and what he's learned along the way so that you can learn from his process as well. Chad, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks, Aaron.
So I know we started Grace Church. A lot of times we talk about missions, and when people think missions, they think overseas, leave where I'm at and go somewhere else. But starting a church, in my opinion, is still like we're going out, we're starting something, we're spreading the gospel. And I personally got to meet you with 8 Days of Hope on their groundbreaking, and I've been, involved with them for years. I love them and everything about them and stuff. So I know I just clicked with kind of the things that you did and wanted to talk about it because there's so many people that can learn from what you've done. And you said you multiplied church, but what caught me was that you multiplied one church into 2, but then, if I understood right, the second one multiplied the third one. It wasn't like one pastor controlling 5 churches. They were multiplying themselves. And so I feel like as we dig into that, we can pass along those processes and templates so people can learn with whatever God's given you, you can learn a little something. So we're going to go deep on this one as to breaking all of that down. So let's start with, where did Grace Church come from? How'd you end up getting the call, or what that looked like to actually even start a church?
Yeah, so I didn't actually start the church; it was existing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was able to join that team, and then from there we went to the multi-site model. But kind of to back up a little bit, I'm from Ohio, so Northeast Ohio is the location where we're at here. Grew up in this area, got into ministry about 25 years ago, and in that first round, I started with a church that did go multi-site. So one location went to 2, launched those at the same time, and I was involved with the main campus for the first couple of years. Well, very quickly, this was early in multi-site years. It was kind of a newer model, and they ran into problems pretty quickly. And both campuses were struggling, and the struggle was primarily with leadership. So
Okay.
that'll probably be a theme throughout the whole talk here. Is the key to multiplication is leadership, having the right leaders in the right place at the right time. And so both of those original launches of that church went through multiple different leaders. And
Okay.
so after about a year and a half, they pulled me into the one location, and they had gone through about 3 or 4 different pastors in that year and a half, 2 years. And so I was going in to like bring some calmness and order to what was happening. And so I went and spent a year there. We relocated from one location to another, brought some stability. We went from one service to 2 services, build a team, and then I handed that off and went to the other one and did something
Okay.
very similar. They were building a new facility. We were portable at a school is how they started. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so transition from the school to the new building, 1 service to 2, grew rapidly in both locations. And I spent about 6 or 7 years at that second location. And when I was there was people coming from a town about a half hour to 45 minutes away north of us. And I noticed this as a campus pastor. And so I started saying, hey, I think we should start a campus there. And so we started to have that conversation. We hired some staff, and we ended up launching a campus. Some of the folks that were coming to my location ended up going there, and we started that location as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went into a couple of different roles at that church, learned a lot about like leadership of a pretty large organization, and they currently have 6 campuses. So going from 1 to 6. Towards the end of that run, it was about 16 years. Was feeling pretty drained. I had bounced around to all the campuses, uh,
Mhm.
in different roles, campus pastor at a lot of them. And again, that turnover really was causing problems in the organization. A lot of people were leaving, and then I was filling in holes, as were some others. And so I did consider getting out of ministry. Like I think a lot
Mhm.
of people, like missionaries or pastors, can
Oh,
identify
yeah.
with that. You get to that point where you're like, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Um, and so I had started praying about what was next. I had learned a lot from that experience of, I was care pastor. I was in assimilation. I was behind the scenes. I was central. I was out at the campus. And then a friend of mine was lead pastor at a local church, same area. He had heard that I might be looking, and so he called me. We had a conversation. He said, "Hey, I've been wanting to go multi-site and multiply. Like that's been my heart. I don't know how to do it. I'm struggling. I don't have the right team." And I knew instantly that that was the right fit. I could take everything that I had learned and help another church multiply. And so that was 7 years ago. And
Gotcha.
that's when I transitioned to grace.
Okay. Well, let's jump back there then, because you said when you stepped in, there was 2 churches already, right? They were trying
Yeah.
multi-site. They had 2 sites. Both of them were kinda struggling at the time when you came in.
Yeah.
And so then while you were there, you were able to you and everybody figured out how to streamline or get it working right to where they started growing and then added a 3rd one.
Yeah.
Um, what would you say, like, kind of break it down, right? If I'm that pastor, I'm like, "Hey, I'm trying to go multi-site. Man, it's just frustrating. We got 2 locations now that are a pain instead of just 1." What did you see was the problems? You say leadership, but if I'm that struggling pastor right now and I've got 2 or I'm trying to start 2, what did you see and find was the problem that went from 2 struggling to 2 thriving and turning into 3? What was kind of the first lessons there?
Yeah. I think that part of the issue was the leaders that were there didn't feel empowered. And so
Okay.
they were not making decisions. And so things would go slow or wouldn't happen. And so I was a bit more decisive and took more risk, and was willing to sometimes like push back on things. And so that actually helped move things forward quickly. And it was also, I had enough experience with leadership to know what they wanted.
Hmm.
So, it wasn't as big of a learning curve as bringing in people who didn't really know the church.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go there. I knew the culture. I knew, so that speaks to like having an internal person that knows your DNA, knows the culture, knows what you want to duplicate at those locations, as your main leader. Because that
Right.
person's the face and the heart of what's going on there. Now they streamed messages, so it was video based. So
Hmm.
that was, you had a consistent teaching, but that was probably the biggest issue, was just not knowing really the culture that we were trying to establish.
So
And
having leaders that were willing to do the work, but not fully understanding the vision and the
yeah,
culture of how it's done and what they're trying to get to,
right.
and then having their hands tied either because they tied them or because somebody tied them on not being able to just
Yeah.
make decisions and go.
Yep. And we had pretty good systems. And so like that's it. That's really important. Like we had systems for kids ministry where everything was done at a central location, everything goes in a tote and it goes out to your campus. But understanding like lower levels down how to execute that,
Yeah.
making sure your volunteers know those things. So I did a lot of training with our volunteers, and just helping the key volunteers understand the systems that make things run smoothly. Um,
Okay.
So that was a big part of it. And then it was caring for people. Like that was another huge thing. There was some issues with conflict that when I got there, I found out that some people were upset and this person was upset. And so it was putting out those fires and it was resolving conflict. And then,
with the staff
being,
members.
yeah, well, with
Yeah.
actually with volunteers.
Yeah.
Uh,
Volunteers.
yeah. So some of it was that relational piece of, connecting with people and empowering your volunteers so they feel like they're part of the process and not just, uh, you know, part of the machine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've seen that too. And I mean, in the business space, they'll say people will help create, or people will really own what they've helped create, right?
Exactly.
If they feel like they were a part of building it, they take it as their own and they run with it. If they feel like they're a cog in your wheel, they have a tendency to, I'll come and go as I please.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've seen that too. If I'm the struggling pastor, and that has been a frustration of mine, I immediately thought when you said, well, I spent time training the volunteers, what'd that look like? How'd you train them? Is this you going in and once a month doing something, weekly doing something? You have checklists stuck to the walls. Like, what did you find kind of worked that I could try if I'm like in that position now?
Yeah. So in a church setting, you have different groups of volunteers. And so there was like guest services. We
Yeah.
had greeters and ushers and like all that. So I did first impressions training. So like, um, when I first got there, I met with the whole team, like in person training where I went through talking about customer service and guest services, and this is what we want to see happen, and some specific practical things, and all the way up to the vision of why we want to do that. When someone comes in, we want them to feel welcomed. So we did trainings like that. We did trainings with our kids ministry volunteers. Same thing. Like here's what happens in the room. So practical hands-on stuff. So we would do that early on when I was there. We did it probably once a quarter in that
Hmm.
first year. And then it was less after that. And then it was more like on-ramping people in the right way.
Yeah. So is there a requirement of the training before somebody starts serving or helping?
We did not require that, but
Okay.
when we offered the training, it was highly encouraged to be there, and most
Right.
people wanted to be there for that. I even did like more general kinds of training. Maybe it's not training, but it's like a workshop where I
Yeah.
remember I did at that first campus I was at. I did a whole. It was like I think it was 2 or 3 weeks of um, how to deal with difficult people and resolve conflict.
Right.
So
Yeah.
just teaching some skills like that and that was open to the whole church. So I
Right.
tried to do some things like that just to kind of help set culture. Um,
Right.
so yeah, doing things like that were helpful.
Yeah. I know the church we're currently at, they do something like that where I honestly I forget what it's called because I've been serving for a while now, so I don't remember what it was. But they had us go through like a who we are and how we serve, I think is what it's called. And
Mhm.
essentially there are two presentations, right? It's a slideshow that was put together about who the church is and then one about how we serve. And it's like, if you're going to volunteer on anything, you have to go to these trainings. They're required. That way, you know who we are, how we serve, so that people show up and they kind of go, oh, like you mentioned, they understand the culture and they understand what we're trying to do. And that
Yeah,
was the duplicatable system, if they will, right? Because
right.
anybody could pick up that PowerPoint and lead someone else through it. And now you've got something that's duplicatable.
Yeah. Yeah, and we
I'm
had
not
some
sure
of those
how long.
things. Yeah, there was a series of like assimilation type classes,
Yeah.
that you would get to know, if you're brand new, like here's a little bit about the church. And then if you want to get more involved, there was a like what we call it here at Grace Church is Explore Grace, where we do what you just
Hmm.
talked about.
Yeah.
And you can become a partner of the church after that class, but it's required.
Hmm.
And a lot of people start serving after they go through that. And then there's one on discovering your gifts and abilities, your spiritual gifts, stuff like that. So there's a process we take people through when they want to get connected,
Yeah.
that really help people get involved.
Yeah. So, I mean, some of that, is people have probably heard of. Um, what's some of we said, there was some hurts and things, right? we're human beings, so no matter where we're at, we're going to have a problem or cause a problem. Typically, we're the problem in pretty much everything. So it's consistent anywhere you go in the world. People kind of have the same problems. But what were some of the things, if you can share, that maybe people were harboring that we wouldn't have thought of, right? Like if I'm a pastor right now and I'm having a hard time getting my teams in line, you said you found there was some hurt that kind of been missed. And so if I'm struggling and I can't figure out what's going on with my people, what's some of the questions I could dig into with them to be like, hey, to get them to feel comfortable pulling it out, right? And
Yeah.
what could I possibly be doing wrong that's making them feel like they can't talk to me about it?
Yeah. Yeah, when I hear about a conflict, I would try to go directly to the person and just have a conversation
Hmm.
initially. Sometimes I would like reach out just by phone call or text or things like that, but um, it wasn't widespread. But what I found was clear communication, and a lot of communication helps tremendously with that. What was
Yeah.
happening was it wasn't getting like from the central campus to the other campuses, the message wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Um, and some of it had to do with systems that, and like, hey, we do it this way. Well, a volunteer had an idea of how to do it better, and they were told, no, you can't do that
Hmm.
because that's not how we do it. And so I
Yeah.
was able to bridge that gap a little bit better and listen to when someone had a reason. And you have to be able to explain the why, like
Right.
why we can't do it that way, or maybe hey, that's not a bad idea. Let's try. And so there was quite a bit of that. In the early stages of launching a campus, there's lots of uncertainty, and um, as you dig into things, sometimes you got to problem solve in the moment, and that's where good leadership, you have to have someone that has that ability, but then also to communicate back to leadership, hey, this
Hmm.
is what we're doing now, and here's why, and it's working much better.
Yeah.
So it was kind of
Well, and
that
that
back
was
and
kind of,
forth.
yeah, that was kind of my next question. Something you just brought up was the communication between one campus to another, right? As you create multiple locations like that and they're working together, what's a good way that you found for communication between them that way? A giant group me, a group text, or a monthly training? Like, what's that? What's that? What have you found essentially that kind of
Yeah, what
works?
what really helped us back then was the campus pastor meeting regularly with the central leadership.
Okay.
So like every week we would meet, and we would talk through a lot of these issues. And so that's where a lot of the whether it's a decision that they had made that we needed to execute,
Yeah.
or something that I needed to bring to central, or even the lead pastor of, hey, here's something that's not working right. What can we do better? That's where we would work on systems. That's where we'd work on the processes. Like, what training do we need to do? So those weekly meetings were vital. And
Yeah.
the other as we grew, all the campus pastors in the room. Um, that was a pretty important time because we would get to know each other too. We get to share best practices, what's working, what's not. So like those in-person meetings, I think are critical
Yeah.
to for the DNA.
Right. I agree. I've seen that so many times too. And because we left into missions in 2011 and we've been all over the place. We've done disaster relief, house church planting. We've been in other countries, these countries. We've been in the house church and the big church on the corner. Like we've been in all these different settings. And it's easy to do ministry together and think that we know each other and think that we care about each other, but we still don't know each other's kids or what their hobbies are outside of the church,
Yeah.
right? Like we show up on Sunday and everybody talks and we do our part and we actually are friends, but we're more of like we're coming together to do ministry or keep the church moving. But something you mentioned was like actually caring about the people. It takes it the step deeper where now that you get a commitment from them, right? Where
Yeah.
they start to own it as like, okay, we're not just doing ministry together. Like they know my kids. And
Mhm.
every once in a while we go bowling together. It kind of brings them to a different level, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I
One of
mean, that's,
that's exactly right. One of the things that I kind of felt like was a little bit of the secret sauce in those early days was I did, and none of the other campus pastors did this. I started a group. meeting with a group of men, and we called it radical mentoring. Um, so what I would do was I would handpick uh, about anywhere from 6 to 8, 10 guys, and I would invite them to a group with me. We would it was high commitment. Like I told them right up front, like we're going to meet once a month for 3 hours. We're going to read a book every month. I'm going to have you do some homework.
Hmm.
You can't miss a meeting unless someone died in your family. And guys loved it.
Oh yeah.
I had guys sign up for this immediately. And so every
Hmm.
campus that I went to, I did multiples of these groups every year.
Nice.
And the ripple effects from investing deeply with 8 men, the ripple effects of that went on for years. Where most of these guys, after going through that year together, uh, they were friends with each other, number one. I knew them way better as the pastor.
Hmm.
Many of them were serving and giving and in a group, very connected, as were their families and other people around them. So that was one of the things that I think was worth my time. Instead of doing one-on-one meetings with a
Yeah.
couple of different guys, I'm doing it
Hmm.
with 8 at a time.
Yeah.
So that was just a little thing that I think paid big dividends, and there was lots of fruit that came from it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned they were giving and they were serving, and so were their families. Were these, would you say these guys were kind of integral, if you will, or a bigger part of the expansion as things were growing and taking on things and really helping you slay those dragons?
Absolutely. A lot of those guys, and some moved on, but a
Yeah,
lot
of
of those
course.
guys were leaders within the church, highly committed, and I could count on them because I knew them, I trusted them, and they trusted me.
Right. That's something I've seen through like everybody I talk to who's multiplied anything. It comes down to the people. And something you mentioned right at the beginning was empowering them to where they feel like they could make decisions and they could take some risk and they could run with it, right?
Yeah,
Which that's a key I've seen in every business or ministry that's doing well is the people feel like one, they're a part of it. They're actually helping build something. What they say matters. They don't get shut down with just a no, we can't do that. It's a well, hey, remember our goal is to do this and here's the vision. How's that fit? And they go, oh, it doesn't fit. They feel like they made the decision of no instead of just a no, we can't do that. And it really, all of this multiplication revolves around people, which is what Jesus is telling us anyway. His
yeah,
whole life is about people, the people we do ministry with, and those relationships that build and grow and stretch on from there. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
good.
It's good.
Um, so you went from the 2 locations, started picking up, went to the 3 locations. Then you said you kind of felt like there was a not a burnout, but maybe a burnout, right? You started questioning, I don't know if I still want to do this. What got to that, right? As things were growing, people go, oh, that's great. We're growing. I always say new levels, new devils. So just
Yeah.
kind of what you're talking about. As you grow into this 3rd location, things seem to be going well. What got you to the point where you felt like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this?
Yeah, I think it was I was changing roles, and so I did a stint. I went was a campus pastor for about 8 years. Well, it was a little longer than that. I was at the main location and then 8 years, and then, they put me into like a stewardship position. I ran a big capital campaign for the church. We raised a bunch of money, was focused on, giving. My background was in banking and things like that, so it was a natural. I love
Okay.
stewardship, and so that was
Yeah.
a good year and a half, but then we started to have turnover. Campus pastors started leaving, and so I would
Okay.
called on to go cover that campus. Um,
Gotcha.
Ended up, being interim at the main campus for a while, leading the team there. Then I went to, towards the end, I went to another campus that didn't have a campus pastor, and so I was commuting about a half hour, to there, and, again, loved the work and the people, but it was just my heart wasn't in it like it was before. Um and it was primarily just because of the frustrations, the internal stuff, like, that people don't
Yeah.
see in a big church. Um, and so that's where I started to really question, is this really for me? Like, I I felt like my hands were tied at times. You know, I wasn't involved in the decision-making process, which was frustrating to me. Um, was really, here's what we're doing, go do it. A lot of that. And I would go, they sent me out because I was good at execution. And I
Right.
get that, there's no question, but I felt like I was at a stage in my career where like I was ready for an executive pastor kind of role. And
Hmm.
that just was not available, in that current situation. And so that's what got me thinking about making a move, was like, how can I take everything that God has taught me here and lead at a higher level?
Yeah.
So that's where it started. That's how I was praying,
Right.
and then the Grace Church opportunity opened up.
Gotcha. So, and I want to point this out because you may be the pastor that's starting everything from scratch and then building this up, and you're the one who's like frustrated, or you could have a pastor who's filling in. And something I want to point out is like a lot of people don't think about this with the pastor. The pastor's the one that's always got it all put together. It's like, no, the pastor's a person just like everybody else. We got to pray over them. We want to encourage them. We want to support them, not overuse them, right? I think something you mentioned that leads to the burnout was I didn't have any say in it. It was just, here's what we're doing, which is the same as like, no, we can't do that, right? We remove the buy in from the person and we start using the people as tools. We need you here to do the thing you're good at. Just go do the thing. And we forget about the person that's kind of now jumping around and being used all over.
Yeah,
Because a lot of people, like, we love the consistency. We like to grow in where we're at. And from what I'm hearing is it was kind of that, hey, we need you here. Hey, we need you there. Hey, we need you here. Hey, we need you there. You're just a tool being ran around.
yeah,
So if you're building anything, pay attention to the people because your ministry can be harder or easier depending on how you see your people, right? If when
absolutely.
somebody gets frustrated, if you can see the person, you'll recognize the frustration and you'll recognize the problem. And if you don't see the person, you just see the ministry, it's the same as business. If you only see the ministry, we forget about the people and their bunch of tools being used back and forth, which is good, but without the personal relationship, it'll all fall apart.
Yeah. It was described to me like I was the utility player on a baseball team. I could play any
Yep.
position,
Yep.
and so like I would be put in a lot of different situations, which was good, and that's what helped me to really grow rapidly as a leader. But
Yeah.
I was ready to be the the head coach.
Right. What was it that was tying your hands? Was this like a board run thing or something? Or there was a lead pastor that called
Yeah,
the shots? Like, what was the organization look like that kind of
yeah.
tied the or
It
decision
it
making
was it
process?
was a lead pastor. He and I, like,
Okay.
long relationship. Even I was on the
Hmm.
board before I went on staff, and so we had a long history together, and, you know, love each other, and the relational side was
Yeah.
good, but he did not see me in that role.
Gotcha.
He didn't want me in that particular role with with the church. He wanted to keep
Right.
me in that, yeah, and I understood that, and it just when that hit me, like that's not going to happen. You know,
Right.
that's where it was frustrating and hard because I believed I could do it, but
Right.
it just wasn't happening. He didn't see it that way,
Yeah.
and so every time I would try to show him that I could do this, he took it in a way I think that I was trying to, like, lead out of my lane,
Right.
and so that
So,
caused some tension.
yeah, of course. So curious. Um, because I'm always trying to work through the problem, right? And I know this is like it all grows us and it all, like you said, the relationship's good. This is just a work dynamic, if you will, right? But let's say somebody's in that role or we're working with people in that role. Say you're the lead pastor or say you're yourself.
Mhm.
You were trying to show, hey, I'm ready for this. I could handle something like this. But he still didn't see it that way. From your opinion, is there something that he could have done or said differently that would help you understand that? Or was it just like a fleshly thing of the time. You know what I mean? Like, how could
Yeah.
somebody work through this if they have this dynamic going on, right?
Yeah.
What do our eyes need to be open to
I,
that
I
that
think
you remember?
the biggest issue was he avoided conflict pretty
Okay.
dramatically. I mean, I would sometimes send him ideas, proposals, or whatever, and he just wouldn't respond.
Okay.
Ghost. And so like just responding or telling me, hey, that's not the direction we're going. Like just communicating would have helped
Yeah.
tremendously.
Right.
But he just um chose not to respond to some of the things that I was proposing that
hmm
were organizational things that I felt like could really help the organization. And we
Yeah.
did it wasn't completely no communication. There was times where we did have communication, and then there was times where some of the decisions I just didn't agree with,
Yeah.
and which is normal in any organization, but it wasn't healthy in how we went about talking about it because
Right.
it would always clearly he was the leader, and so it would always be what he decided instead of
Yeah.
some of the ideas that were thrown out. Not just me, there was others very, very similar
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to bring it up because I knew that's where you were going to go with it. And because I want people to really hear this. Like, our goal of this is to help you learn where I'm at this stage of the process and I'm having this problem. So, Chad is ahead of you by however many years he's ahead of you if you're at that point right now. And what we've said over and over and over, whether it's volunteers or the lead pastor or the internal board or anybody, it all comes down to a communication of you being able to clearly say, this is what we're doing and why we're doing it that way based on our culture, our goals, our vision, and communicating, but then empowering people to where they feel like they're a part of the process. Because what you just said, it wasn't just me. It was kind of his way when it was done was kind of like he was the deciding factor. And that's just the way it was. And it wasn't just me. So it wasn't a personal thing. It was just, he saw things as like, okay, well, I'm the determining factor. We'll do what I think. And you do need to do that as a leader, right? You do need to have some of that. But
Right.
at the same time, if you want to build a team that's going to build with you and grow the thing with you and past you, then you have to learn how to go, okay, I can give up this one. I may not 100% agree, but I'm going to give this one to the team. I'm going to give this
Mhm.
one to the team because your team will feel like they're a part of it and they will stay because they're building with you.
Yeah.
But if you end up being the only one that knows everything, you'll end up being the only one that knows everything. And
Yeah.
you end up having to do it all yourself. And I know that's not what anybody's trying to do. Most of us don't even realize we're doing that when we're doing that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And so that led to the transition, which was absolutely the best thing for me. And so I would speak to
Good.
anyone out there that is considering a transition. Um, it's painful. Um, it's confusing. There was hurts that I carried with me
hmm
that I wasn't even completely aware of. So, I mean, it took me probably a couple of years to fully recover.
hmm
But I would transitioned into a situation in an organization that was very healthy and a leader that was very healthy and communicated very well. And
Yeah.
so, be careful where you transition to if you're hurting. Number
Right.
one, it needs to be and our slogan here is a healing place for a hurting world. And so that's what appealed to me. I was hurting
Yeah.
and I needed Grace Church, but I also had a lot to offer as well.
Yeah.
And so it was a good connection for me.
So, um, do you think the amount of time you were there created the hurt? Like, did you stay helping longer than you should have, which
Hmm.
created the hurt that you carried on?
That's a great question, Aaron. I think you might have experienced some of this. So,
I've
uh,
talked to a
yeah,
lot of people.
oh yeah, yeah. So yes, my wife had been telling me for a few years that I should probably leave, and I didn't want to. Partly because I really believed in the vision.
Yeah.
I was sold out, bought in 100%, and so I put up with a lot
Yeah.
because of the vision, the multiplying, like going into new communities, reaching people, making disciples. like that resonated with me. And
Yeah.
so I probably did hang in there longer than I should have. And that did. That
Yeah.
last year and a half was probably where a lot of the hurt came from.
I have direct friends that I was got to know and was discipling. It's been 4 years or better now. Well, 5 years or better now. But they were the worship leaders at a church, and they felt like God had told them to step down from the worship leaders. And but they thought, but there's nobody else that'll do it. Like there's nobody else to step in. And that passion that we really have
Yeah.
of like, I don't want them to fail. I want the church to succeed, right? I know I'm bringing something that can work and they need the help. It's almost like we ignore or shuffle God's voice under the rug a little bit because we're trying to help with what God has created, right?
Yeah.
And they ended up staying for a whole nother year past that. And by the time they were done with the year after that God had told them to step down, they stayed for another year. By the time they were done with that, they weren't even going to church on Sundays anymore. They were so frustrated with the whole system because the system had used and abused them. And I was like, hold on a second. You're saying you knew specifically when God told you it was time to move on and you stayed. So you caused that problem for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, own it. We can move past it. The only reason I brought that up and I brought that question up was because um, whether you're starting the church or whether you're helping at the church or whether you're a missionary out on your own, all of this stuff, and I'm a systems guy, so you guys know that's the whole point is how do we help you create systems? How do we pass what people have learned, like Chad, down so that you guys can save the learning curve, if you will? All of it still, though, has to revolve around like what God's telling you to do. Because ministry will be hard. Life's hard. Anytime there's people coming together, we're going to have problems because we're a pain in the butt most of the time. But like God will have you there and working through the problems at times. But there's other times where God says, hey, you've done all you can do. It's time for you to move on. And that ultimately is the hands and feet moving together because in your case, when you moved on, it was like great for you.
Mhm.
And sometimes when you move on, that forces the next worship leader to go, hey, I see a gap. I'll fill it. But they don't see a gap until somebody leaves and they won't fill it. So it's
Right.
almost like we end up in this limbo of I can't leave, they need me. And the next person won't raise their hand until they see a problem.
Yeah.
So it's like, trust God in the moving, right? And seek him and then do what he tells you to do when he says without the without the lagging or the time of our own. And I think we'll save ourselves a lot of hurt along the way.
Yeah, it ended up being good for both churches.
Yeah.
The church that I was at, they brought in other people, and they've grown since then. But transitioning to Grace, one of the cool things with that was, Pastor Larry and I had known each other for all these 20 some years, and now we're working together, and so we clicked almost immediately, and that's vital. Like when you're leading or wanting to multiply and grow, having a core leadership team that is tight is very important. And so,
Yeah.
as we started into this, like within the first year that I was there, I started in February. We launched in November, the very first campus. So it was fair. It was pretty close to our that first location. But there's a lot of people that lived in that area. We identified a building that was available, and we pulled the trigger and moved. And I ended up being the campus pastor. That wasn't the original
Mhm.
plan. We were going to hire someone, but we couldn't find anybody. So Larry just said, "Well, you go do it," and I'm still there. So it was a great move because I used all that experience of like building new buildings and transitioning, and did all that stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
Accelerated how fast we could do it. So having
Right.
an experienced leader in place made it move a lot quicker. So we launched that first campus right before COVID. So it was in 2019, end of 2019. We were doing Saturday night church, trying to reach a different group of people, and then COVID hit, took us back. Um, we made it through that 2020 year, but I saw that we weren't really reaching people that couldn't come on Sunday, they were just saying, "Oh, we get Sunday off. We'll go Saturday night church." So we moved to Sunday, and
Okay.
so in 2021 we started on Sunday morning, almost doubled within the first 3 months, and went to 2 services at Easter that year, kept it, and we've been growing ever since at that location.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of that initial. Uh, you need a success story on the first one, and so we
Of
put a
course.
lot of attention into it. The first one is pretty easy in multi-site world.
Okay.
It's when you start going to even the third one wasn't, at least for me, it didn't seem very difficult. We had a worship leader that became the campus pastor, had a heart for that community we were going to. We found a building, it's a God story of how, we ended up
Hmm.
buying it. Um, the sellers didn't want to sell, and they had told a bunch of other people no for higher prices. And
Right.
we got the right timing and got the building. And so anyway,
Who'd have
uh,
thought?
yeah, it was just really cool. And then, but when you start getting beyond 3 campuses, that's where systems become even more important.
Yeah.
Um, so that was one of the big learnings, that I had was, you gotta have the systems for everything, to
So
make
when
it.
you, to clarify, and then we'll jump right into that. You say multi-site, explain what you mean. Do you have one pastor who's streaming his message to churches 2, 3, and 4? Or is it like, just to clarify that,
Yeah.
and then let's go into what you're talking about with the systems and having them dialed in on one before going to 2 or 3 or 4?
Yeah, so, couple of things that I did not like the live streaming, at the previous church. Uh, it can work, but I thought there should be a blend of, like, live teaching at the local level, and so I'd been pushing for that with no results. So when I went to Grace Church, Pastor Larry and I agreed with that. He didn't want his messages being streamed out to the campuses, and so we have live teaching. The campus pastor essentially is like the lead pastor of that location.
Okay.
So we are doing the same message series. Whether it's a book of the Bible or a topical series, we do a blend of both. It's live teaching, and so we all make our own outlines based on the same scripture or
Okay.
or theme. And so we have our own outlines, we have our own messages at all of our campuses that way.
Just
And
the same topic, or the same
same
of
topic.
like,
Yep.
we're going to teach on this topic using this scriptures, and
Yeah.
then each pastor gets to kind of flow with
Right.
whatever God gives them wherever they're at.
Yeah, so it
Okay.
develops, and then we also have a culture here where we have multiple communicators at every campus. So
Meaning?
the campus pastor is the primary communicator.
Hmm.
So at my campus, I have 2 other guys that preach. So there's
Okay.
3 of us in a rotation, actually 4 now with our campus 5 pastor. He's part of our team. So
Okay.
I'm preaching once or twice a month, and then the other guys are filling in, have their times as well. And
Yeah.
so part of that is developing people and also having multiple different styles. It's working pretty well for us.
Well,
And
and nobody's getting overworked that way. It's a
right.
Solomon model, right? I think Solomon, in Solomon, when he's running his kingdom, he had one guy that would run it for an entire month, and then he was off for 11 months. It's
Yeah.
like he had one guy a month for
Yeah.
he had 12 guys. One of them ran the entire kingdom for 1 month. And he was
Yep.
off for 11 months. Like, nobody gets overworked that way.
Yeah. It really does help. And then I'm able to do, like, I'm the executive pastor of ministry, so I also help all of our campuses. So it frees
Okay.
me up to be able to do other things like writing. I do a lot of strategy for the church, and so writing strategies about discipleship or assimilation, those kinds of things I'm working on as well. So that's when we do multi-site. We also do worship that way. We collaborate, but each campus does their own worship set. It's different at
Hmm.
every campus. We
Okay.
might occasionally have the same song on a Sunday, but it's not by design. Um, every once in a while, we do a series where we do have the same outlines, but we still have live teaching, at each campus.
Yeah.
So that's a little different model than a lot of multi-sites have out there. We're in
Hmm.
rural, kind of small town America, and so that feels a lot better. Our campuses are like our original site runs about 600. and then my campus is averaging about 350. So we're smaller churches, and the others are a little bit smaller than that. Um,
Yeah.
and that's kind of by design, like as we grow. And so like the campus that I'm at, we're running about 350 to 400. So we started thinking about, okay, we need to launch a campus out of there. Where most consultants would tell you until you get to 1,000 people, you shouldn't even consider it.
Yeah.
But that's not our model.
Right.
So right now, we have 4 locations, and the location that I'm at, we are launching the 5th location out of there. So we've got about 50 people that are gonna be on the core team that are gonna go to a community about 25 minutes away, a
Hmm.
little bit bigger town, and, we're this fall, we're gonna be opening, at a location down there.
Gotcha. There's a couple things I'm thinking of as you're talking. One, having your own pastor that actually has um, is able to create his own sermons, his own message, right, and be able to teach in the style and the talents that God's given him at the church. But then you also said worship teams and everything else, right? And 3 communicators at the different churches. You're allowing people to build along with you and make their church their thing, right?
Yeah,
To where they're going, whoa, we're actually building this thing together as 5 churches, but it's still our thing and we're getting to make decisions together and things like that, right? So I can see that working from what we've been talking about of there being a part of building it and there's multiple people being a part of building it. What's the benefits then of being a part of the 5 grace churches, right? If basically it's a separate church, pastor and all the other people and everything else, what's the benefits of still being a part of the 5?
yeah, so we have a central team. So like most multi-site churches, we have a central group of people that support all the campuses. So we have a communications team that does all of the graphics and design and outlines and social media, all of that kind of thing. We have a central finance, uh, HR, missions. We also have like I would be central mission or ministry. We have a central family life director that leads our kids and student directors. So there's all of that support that you don't have,
Mhm.
like all of the people at the campus are doing ministry.
Mhm.
And so we don't have the operational stuff that we have to worry about. Those
Yeah.
things are provided. So that's the big benefit. That's more than just being a part of a denomination. Like it's like, and there's one board of governor or elders that oversee all 5 campuses. So
Okay,
we
just
don't, we
making
don't
sure the vision and the mission and the goals and the
Yeah, we don't
faith
have
and
we
everything's
don't
all
have
aligned.
roles at each campus, so there's one central, and we have from different, locations. Some of our elders are at different locations, but that's the benefit. So it's really different than church planting in that regard,
Yeah.
because it's not like, "Here, we're giving you a bunch of money, you go start a church, and we'll support you a little bit." Like,
Yeah.
there's still that central
Right.
connection. Yeah,
Well, and I knew that's where you were going to go with it. And so I wanted to bring it up because I could see the 2 things that the pastor's thinking, right? Is one, well, if I'm doing all of this myself, what's the point of being a part of all 5 of them, right? It's like, well, that's the benefit of multiplying but still being together
yeah,
is like that. One graphic designer can handle the stuff for all of them, right? There's certain pieces of multiplication that can be duplicated across however many you have. If God's called you to start an English school, well, if you end up with 20 of them, all 20 of them don't have to have their own finances and their own graphic designer because it's the same thing multiplied. So it
yeah,
takes less people because I know the other side of what the pastor's thinking is, man, we got multiple locations. So now we got 2, 3 pastors for each location. That's 6 instead of 3. We have a worship team for each instead of just the one. Man, this is so many people and building a team is already hard. You know, it's like, yes, there are more team that come by multiplying, but then there's less team that comes by multiplying by being a part of the big thing too, right?
right.
There's so many facets that if you haven't done any of it, it's kind of hard to see all those things. But there's it still is all coming back to the people feeling like I'm building this thing. Because my guess is the worship and the pastors, they're all live closer to those locations and they feel like this is my community and God's called me to this thing. And now with 5 locations, you're creating, if you have 2 or 3 pastors for each one of them rotating, right? You're creating less stress on a pastor and you're creating more opportunity for people who feel like God's called them to teach to step into their calling.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And
overall, it's
just
just
to
easier.
clarify that some of those communicators are not on staff.
Right.
Like we pay them a stipend, but they are just skilled teachers. One of the guys used to be a pastor. Now he has his
Okay.
own company. The other one works at a local nonprofit that's been part of our original launch. And just he was very involved and had the gift of communicating. And so we've empowered
Yeah.
him to do that. At our original site, most of the other communicators are staff. So at
Okay.
that location, it's other pastors. But that's one of the cool things, because if you're going to multiply, you have to have a pipeline of people to send. And so if you're not developing people, empowering them, letting them use their gifts and abilities, when you say, hey, we're going to go start campus number 5, you don't have the people to do it. And
Right.
so it's so vital to have a pipeline. And we're finding that out with worship leaders, especially. We're having a really hard time hiring worship leaders from the outside. And so we're working on the internal pipeline to try to
Okay.
be ready for those future campuses.
Yeah. I hear you. So w- I'm constantly thinking of the person who's trying to do this and what's the struggle they're going to have, right? So when I think of a struggling church or struggling organization of any kind, it typically is the way that we're leading it.
Hmm.
I know the time I've struggled to get people on board, it's me. I'm controlling everything. I'm the one that's making the decisions, and I feel like I'm the only one that can get it done right. You know, that whole old school mindset, if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. And, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, it sounds like what we're talking about again is just if you're going to lead well and multiply, you have to learn to give up control, give up the reins, and teach other people to walk into what God's called them to do, and then trust God to actually guide them as they do, but then support them. Like you're talking about, you have the central board or the central leadership team that 5 locations, but you still have a central leadership team that is overseeing them and pouring into them to make sure that they're all moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And so as you grow, you're going to want to create a team of people with wisdom that you know these guys are sold out, or these guys or gals are sold out on what God's called us to create. And that becomes an oversight to help develop people into their God-given talents instead of just helping you stream your message to 5 new places, right?
Right. Yeah.
Big underlining thing. You mentioned systems and things, right? We'll do a little bit on that to where people can go, okay, let's say we get the leadership thing down and we start really getting people involved. And now that's not a problem. You mentioned systems and having those dialed in as you go to 3 locations and different stuff. Speak on that a little bit. What have you found? What have you learned? What software you're using or anything like that, that just stuff along the way that somebody could pick up?
Yeah. Your church database is important. We use Rock. And that's where we set up every campus within there. So each campus has here's the people attending that campus. Here's the teams, the volunteer teams within that campus.
So real quick, is Rock just like a CRM?
Yes.
Okay. And a CRM, for those who don't know, is customer relationship management system.
Yep.
Basically, it just allows you to have name, phone number, email, contact information, notes, things like that on people so that you know basically where people are and about people, and you follow up with them and all that type of stuff.
Yeah. So all
And
of
you
our
said
kids,
you're using rockrms.com is the one you're using.
Yep. And so even our giving is linked there. So I can look at every campus pastor can look at their campus and know here's the small groups that we have and who's in it. Here's the volunteers teams and who's in it. Here's everybody that's at my campus. And then we can send like group emails and texts like through that. It's a great way to communicate. It's a great way to organize, um, and also keep track of your giving and those kinds of things. So that's one of the most critical, is to have a really good CRM that's user friendly, that can help you to manage things as a campus pastor. I look at that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And even from a central seat, looking at the campuses. And then we also have metrics that we follow, that's tied in with Rock. So we can, at a glance, we can see, hey, here's the attendance at every campus for every Sunday. Here's the giving each week. Here's how many people are volunteering at those campuses. Here's how many people are in a small group. Um, here's how many people got baptized. There's all of those things at a glance, so you can see trends. So
Yeah.
that's another that's one of the big systems, um, that really helps us. We also have we do the same curriculum for kids and students at all of our campuses. So we have a central family life director that works with those teams to make sure that we're picking the right curriculum. And so
Okay.
that's done. They collaborate as a team on the curriculum, and then like we try to do live teaching instead of a lot of video, even with kids. So like they're working on taking video and turning it into live teaching, or taking a script and that kind of thing. So that's another system that we use
Yeah.
is that kids system, because families is a big part of what we do, is reaching the kids and the students.
Yeah.
Um,
Real quick on the CRM, because I think this is something that if you're growing, a lot of people, I've even seen big churches still struggling with this. And I see some people, as they're growing, they're trying to avoid the system,
hmm,
right? Like we're supposed to be like spiritual and talking to people about God. And like now we're spending money on software and I got to learn software, and there's some Christians that believe software and technology is bad, and so I like to bring it up and just talk about it for a second because I believe software is a tool, technology is a tool, right? Money is a tool to multiply what it is God given us. And stewardship is learning how to do it well. And if I'm running around with a free group me and trying to run all my teams with 15 different group me groups, and they're getting messages all the time and they're avoiding them and they're not looking at them anymore because they get too many messages and they're tired of the dinging, and people are now getting missed and things aren't getting done and they're not showing up on time and things like that. A CRM allows you to know, like you said, the numbers of who's coming and who's going. It's not so that we can go, oh, we're so great. We got big attendance. Look at our numbers. It's so that if 400 people dropped off 3 weeks in a row, you can go, whoa, what's going on in our community and how can we serve them better? And
yeah.
we can reach out and we can start pouring into the community different to pull them back in. I see software and CRMs and things as good stewardship.
Oh yeah.
What's your opinions?
Yeah, without a doubt, that's being a good steward. So, like, one of the other systems within that CRM is, if somebody fills out a connect card or connects with us digitally and asks for anything, I want to talk to somebody, I want to share a prayer request, I want to get in a group, I'm interested in volunteering, I want to know more about kids ministry. That triggers somebody getting a contact. So now
Hmm.
they'll get an email saying, hey, this person has asked for this, and now we follow up with them. And so it's
Yeah.
a great follow-up system. If you don't do that well, you're going to lose people quickly.
Yeah.
Just caring for people. So the systems allow you to care for people much better.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
so
and that's a lot of people say that. They're like, I need to spend time with the people, not learning tech. And I go, but the learning the tech will help you care for the people better.
right.
It's
Absolutely.
going to help people not get missed. And like you mentioned, it allows you to send text message or emails. You're already sending the emails. Even at a smaller level as a missionary, you're sending once a month emails. And I've talked to people that are like using the free Gmail account and they got to send 50 of them at a time because that's the cap. And then they're going and doing it again and again and again. It's like, so in other words, you're spending 2.5 hours to send 500 emails instead of writing the one email and then clicking send to everybody all at once because of the software side of things.
Yeah, it
Right. So
helps to be more efficient, like what you're
yeah.
talking about there. Yeah, you can get a lot more work done, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's really important. We also have Google Docs and Excel. Like
hmm
we share, so shared documents is a big part of like what we do. So when I work on something, I can quickly share it with other team members. We can be on the same document together at a meeting and live updates to the
Yeah.
document. So that's another little thing that we utilize as well.
Well, and
Uh,
that's a quick and easy way for you to create the systems that pass on, like you mentioned
yeah,
too, right?
yeah,
I like to get a little technical on stuff like this because so many people go, well, just create a system that everybody does it. I'm like, most people don't even know what that means because they haven't tried it, right? And it's as simple as, like you just mentioned, start a free Gmail account. You have Google Drive. Start a Google Doc. It's like a Word doc. But if you do a Google Doc, right, in your Drive, it can be easily shared online between all your staff. And everybody can sit on one meeting, you in Ohio, me in Texas, so and so in Kenya, and we can all have the one document open and we can be brainstorming and adding to it. And everybody's got a live update and it can be shared. And it's just a simple Google document, right? That can be shared amongst everybody quick and easy. And that is a fast way to just be able to create your systems and pass them along that can be
yeah.
updated anytime.
Yeah, one of the things
But
we're
anyway,
also working on right now is on the finance end, we're outsourcing our finances. And so we're working with an organization that will take over doing a lot of the data entry and day to day. And that was driven because our finance director is going to retire at the end of this year.
hmm
And instead of replacing that person, we're paying a company to do the bulk of the work. And so we'll have a part-time
okay.
person that's the liaison. So sometimes that you can outsource things to save a
Yeah.
little bit of money and get better, almost like CFO kind of like help
Right.
at a lower price. So that was one thing that we're still working through that, but that's something recently that we did. We also have some meeting software. We're actually trying to figure out a better system, so maybe you can actually help with that, Aaron. Uh, but it's where we do our one-on-one. So another system that we
Yeah.
have is we have one-on-one meetings with direct reports either every week or every other week. So I'm sitting down with my direct reports at a minimum every other week. We're going through, hey, here's what you're working on, goals. I get to like a personal update with them. So that
hmm
one-on-one interaction is part of our culture. And then we also have team meetings. So each campus meets at least once a month as a team.
hmm
We meet with all of our staff once a month as
Okay.
well. All of our pastors meet together once a month. And then our executive team, which is me, our lead pastor, and our operations pastor, the three of us meet every week. And again, in those meetings, we're talking. We have this document, like this software that helps us to. Here's the agenda. Here's things we're talking about. Here's things we have to make decisions on, that kind of thing. We
Yeah.
keep that in the software.
What software are you using? Do you know? Or do
It's
you
called
mind?
Leader,
Okay.
Leadr, and
Okay.
yeah. So we've been using it for a number of years, but we're not fully utilizing everything it can do, and it's a little expensive. So we
hmm
are looking to either build something ourselves for those one-on-one meetings and staff meetings is primarily how we've been using it.
Yeah. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Leader, and there's some others that way. And it just depends on what stage of the process you're in, right? And how much notes and everything you need.
Right.
Because in the beginning, do something as easy like a free Zoom account will give you 45-minute meetings for free. And at $15 a month or $15.99 a month, you get a pro account. And it has AI companion built into it now, to where you can literally turn on the AI companion and just go through whatever based on a Google Doc, put in the stuff we need to talk about and everything else, go over it on the call, and then AI companion will summarize the whole meeting, kick out a list of to-dos, what was talked about, and everything else. And then you've got all your notes and everything and just copy and paste them directly to the Google Doc for
Yeah.
somebody starting out, right? It's an easy way to just document, leverage AI for $15 a month, and you could do all those one-on-one calls. But then as you grow, you're tracking more things, right? Something like Leader actually gives you more of that where you can do the tasks and everything else.
Yeah.
So it just depends on how deep you need to get into what all you're tracking, right?
Right.
But the idea is figuring out the system so that you can pass it on, because once you have that in place, right, you could multiply however many churches you want,
Hmm.
and the system remains the same. We use Rock to do the CRM to do these things. We use Leader to do our meetings this way. Here's a Google Doc that says we have a meeting on this day, once a month for this team, once a month for this team, once a quarter for this team. And it's like, there you are. Run the same thing over and over and over. Reference those 3 places.
Yep.
Learn the 3 places over and over and over, and that's it.
Right. And then, on the worship level, like we have the things that a lot of churches use. We use Planning Center online to organize all of our services. So each campus has their own that has a planning center. I can look at all the campuses and know like what songs they're doing, what announcements they're doing. I can go in and add things that I want them to talk about. So Planning Center online is really a great platform. We use ProPresenter to do the slides and things like that. So there's a lot of software that goes into worship that you can
Yeah.
utilize to make those systems work really well. So that's another part that all of our campuses use the same stuff, so we can go
Hmm.
from campus to campus easily.
Gotcha. So the Leader you mentioned, it's leadr.com. That's
Yeah.
the Leader that he's talking about. And then the planningcenter.com. That's the planning center that he's talking about. If you guys want to check that out. We're not getting paid by him or anything else. We're just sharing what we've been doing and what we've been learning along the way. So feel free to do your own research on them. What's the difference between, say, Planning Center and Rock CRM? Because you mentioned one's like worship team kind of helps you. How is that different than like what's in Rock?
Yeah. So some churches use Planning Center as their CRM, I believe. Um,
Okay.
we only use it for scheduling, like the worship team. So like what we use it to schedule the worship team, the tech team, and to plan the service. So
Okay.
that's really, so we have all of our songs in there as well. So you can, plug the songs in. It gives you how many minutes those songs are. Like you can put what key you're playing it in, that kind of thing. So we
Gotcha.
utilize it that way. So we don't put all of our whole church into Planning Center. I believe you can. They have different platforms and different levels of subscription that you
Yeah.
can use.
I'm looking at just like the things that Planning Center does. And it looks like it's got like services, worship planning, music stands for digital sheets, community and things. And then when I go to the CRM like Rock, it's talking about people management, check-in,
Yep.
metrics, finance tool, event registration. So they
Yep.
are a bit different. It's like
Yeah.
just from looking at the websites and stuff, it looks like Planning Center is going to help you internally kind of manage your teams and run what your teams are doing. And then Rock is more of the external people management and events and all that type of stuff. So
Exactly.
2 good ones you can check out, and that's how they would work together. One on the external people, one on the internal people.
Mhm.
And of course, you can learn, you might be able to find one that goes in there. I'm sure there's a bunch of them.
There are. Yeah, and
But
and I think it's wise every year we look at all of our subscriptions and like
yeah.
what do we need to use and like we just stopped using one that was a kind of like took all of our finances and put it into different analytics.
Right.
And so we were subscribing to them to do it. Well, now we're doing that internally through Rock.
Okay.
And so we were able to stop that subscription because we're able to duplicate it within our own CRM. So, um,
Gotcha.
yeah, with Rock, it helps to have someone that can code to do some internal work with it. There's other CRMs for churches that are a little more simple, but this
Hmm.
this is pretty broad in what it can do.
Okay. I don't know if you can do this with Rock or not. I don't know if there's somebody in there. But if you guys are like on a strapped budget and you just need somebody like to do pieces like that, there's Fiverr and Upwork too, where
Mm.
people can essentially be hired to do a job and they just get paid for that job, right? So I think it's fiverr.com and upwork.com. And basically, there are people all around the world. Some are stateside, some are in other countries, but you can post what it is, the job that you want done, like adding some code to Rock to make it do whatever it is you want to do. And then people can tell you how much they would charge just to do that, to where you're not hiring a role, right? But you can create a budget to, say, build out your CRM and get it customized. And that's a resource essentially that you could use to do that without having to hire somebody. So you guys have taken it from where you're at now, right? We've kind of talked multiplying and the leadership being the primary role of all this stuff working. The software just helps support the communication better. And I can tell you too, just as a warning, don't get every software you look at. Commit to one or two, find the place and say, we use Rock for this. We use Planning Center or Center Planning, whatever the other one was, for this, and make sure that you're communicating that just like you're communicating everything else to your team. Your team needs to know this is for this is for this, so that they're not getting confused, because that will also cause team members to not want to be a part of multiplication. They're like, we already don't know what we're doing. Last year it was this, and this week it's this. Commit to something, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it too. So it's like if you find something and you say, you know what, we're just going to commit to Rock for the next year. That'll give you a year now. And if you sit down and you even just say, I'm going to take 30 minutes or 1 hour a day to work in the system, that way it stays in its place. But if you do 30 minutes a day of working inside of it, you will learn how to use it. You'll get good at it, and it will start to find its place in your organization. If you try it once or twice every month for 4 hours, you're just going to be frustrated the whole time. So it's like, whatever you commit to, be consistent with it and commit to it as I'm doing this for the Lord and we're stewarding what he's given us. So we're going to commit daily to working the system and building it out. So yeah, you guys have multiplied. We've talked software, we've talked leadership. Now we'll kind of wrap up just talking about where you guys are currently at, because now you're creating a whole network, the Acts 16.5 network, where you're creating training now to train pastors both stateside and around the world to help multiply with what it is that you've learned. So tell me a little bit about that. We've got the system locally in place. Now you're talking, this is how we're going to expand it.
Right. Yeah. So our lead pastor, Larry, he has a huge heart for missions. He actually started a missions organization called 5812 Global. And that was originally a safe house locally for women and children that expanded to Thailand and Haiti and Uganda. I'm trying to think if I'm missing one there, but so they're doing orphanages and helping in those countries. So from there, so there's some experience in training missionaries, and then also equipping pastors locally, connecting with them. We saw a need for a network of churches, because one of the other issues that both of us have a real heart for is struggling churches. There's a lot of churches that are struggling all over the country, all over the world, and dying, closing, those kind of things. So the heart behind the Acts 16.5 network is to really help churches. You know, that scripture says, so the churches were strengthened in the faith and grew daily in numbers. So we want to help churches that have a heart to grow and multiply, get healthy, grow, and multiply. And so the network is designed to train pastors and their teams on how to do that. So we do have some international churches that are coming on board. We're talking to different pastors and pastor networks in other countries. And so we'll provide some training, collaboration, just connecting with other pastors, having conversations, sharing resources. But then we also work locally with churches to try to help revitalize. And so I'm actually consulting with a church right now. It's about an hour and a half away from where we're at. And I've been meeting with them. They're a Methodist church that went through the whole split. And they've been declining. They're an elderly congregation. They have a big church building, very nice, and they're not using it. They don't have any kids ministry. They don't have any student ministry.
Yeah.
They're dying. And so I've been meeting with them. They have a heart to start up again. So I'm helping them make some changes and get some things started and equip some of their leaders to try to grow and just start reaching their community. So we're doing things like that as well,
Yeah.
where they can pay us a small consulting fee to come in and kind of help with that along the way. So this is the soft launch year. So we don't have all of our systems in place yet. We don't have our website done yet, but that's going to be coming.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, and this is an overflow of the heart behind all of it, right? From everything we've talked about, it has not been, this is how I, the pastor, have grown my church to 5 locations where I stream my message around, and I'm the ultimate discerning factor, right? The whole thing has been, how are we raising up people to step into the roles to where they're multiplying and then leveraging systems to make it more efficient to where everybody's trained, supported, and now that same process, that same passion goes, you know what? Why don't we help everybody? Like, let's help other churches in other countries and other, that are just struggling so that churches aren't falling apart. And that's the same heart we have of Watch Missions Live. It's like, I've been the missionary that was struggling. I've been the missionary, or I've been the donor that didn't hear anything from the missionaries and stopped donating. I've been the missionary who felt forgotten once he was gone, And it's like, how do we help those with what we've learned to where they can keep multiplying? And it's like, this is how the stewardship, learning the systems and things that you've learned, there's a natural overpouring that just continues to grow of, okay, now we've kind of got it figured out. We got the process. Let's see how many more people we can help with it.
Yeah.
And so
You
I
nailed it.
challenge everybody, whatever God's given you, figure out how to systematize it and raise people up through it, because then the natural outpouring is like, it's God's. And if you think 1,000 years down the road, this is what I want every missionary to think, is like, my personal goal is, think of it as you're building, like, God gave you a ministry and it needs to last the next 1,000 years. If you think of it as, I'm building Watch Missions Live to be around for the next 1,000 years, that means I'm gone. I'm long gone. And so the only way that I can create something that will last 1,000 years is thinking way beyond what I'll be doing next year, 10 years, or 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, once you start thinking that way, you'll multiply what God's given you, because you'll see the need for other people, and your discipleship will deepen too, because your team you'll be like discipling them different. You'll be growing them to run the thing or to take the thing instead of trying to control it because you think you're going to be around, right? So anyway, it's so good. I could geek out on systems all the time, but I wanted to give some people some practical knowledge on how to find things, and then just where you're going with everything. And I'll put the links to stuff in our show notes and description for everything we talked about. The 5812 Global is 5812, the numbers, -global.org if you want to check that out too. But we'll have the links below. Chad, man, I've appreciated the time. Anything you want to say or add, or you feel like we didn't get to?
Yeah, I would finish just by saying, I'm 56 years old, and I definitely am not done growing, and as a leader and as a Christ follower. And so, as a leader, having that mindset of, I'm going to keep learning, I'm going to keep growing, because as the leader grows, the organization grows.
Yeah.
And it needs to be in a healthy way. I've seen so many leaders that they're growing, but it's not in a necessarily always healthy. And so it takes a lot of humility. Like, I sure don't have all the answers. And, that's why I want to learn from others. Like, I try to connect with people and learn from other churches and organizations as much as I can. So I would encourage that, be hungry, be humble, work hard, communicate clearly, really work on that part of your leadership, because everything does rise and fall in leadership. And Jesus was the ultimate leader. And look at the incredible
Mm-hmm.
organization, so to speak, that he built with
Yep.
just 12 guys. I mean,
Hmm.
um, it's incredible. And so we can duplicate a lot of what Jesus did in the way that he led. And it takes steadily plodding along. And I do believe sometimes there's big breakthroughs and big leaps, but it's all about people. And so focus there, like that would
Yeah.
be like one person at a time, one group at a time, and you'll go far.
Yep. Love it. Love it. It always comes down to the core things. Doesn't matter what mission or ministry we're talking about. It's people hearing God's voice and then just stewarding it properly. Well, hey, I enjoyed the conversation. For everybody listening, thank you for giving us your time. We really appreciate it. There's tons of things you can do in the world, and time is something you can never get back. So I appreciate you spending some with us. And I look forward to getting to know you guys deeper. We'll catch you on the next episode. Have a good one.
Yeah. Moses had a staff, David had a stone. The disciples changed the world.